welcome into this week's version of the Coach Nick Ledbetter Show. And Coach, welcome in. A little bit better outcome this week, taking on North Jackson 4A, Class 4A North Jackson Chiefs. And you got the win. It's kind of a crazy game.
It was a crazy game. I thought our kids played hard for 4 quarters and played hard in overtime as well. They did a fantastic job leaving it all on the field Friday night.
Well, you know, one thing when you see kids at that level, when you have an outing like you had against Collinsville, you know, a lot of times the kids tend to get down. And, of course, this is a tribute to you as a coach. I've noticed this last year and this year. You know, the kids never seem to think they're out of it. I mean, you know, you see teams, you know, they come out, they open up flat, they have a big loss, and they just totally deflate. And the effort that the kids showed, and of course, I know you're the coach, you look at the film, you know all the technical stuff, and I'm sure you still got a lot you want to work on, but if you don't have that effort and that drive, you know, all the other stuff doesn't matter, and you've got it with those kids.
That was the difference. That's one thing, something we talked about, especially on Thursday and Friday. And had Coach McFall come speak to the team on Thursday, and one of the things we just repeated over and over was not to, you know, don't leave the field until you get what you want. And we didn't play perfect. You turn the film on, and they still a lot of stuff, a lot of ways we got to get better. But one thing was different.
Right.
And that was our effort and our attitude and how we played the game. And we played to find a way to win and not find a way to lose. And very, very proud of the kids for the change in their mindset and their effort and attitude for 4 quarters and overtime for that game compared to the week before.
And like you said, you know, it was a strange game. It was kind of sloppy. 7 turnovers, but they had the most of them. And, you know, you win the turnover battle, usually you win the football game.
Well, and that was another thing. You know, I think I've said on the show many times and in the preseason as well that we were -18 from last year. And then last week, opening week, or 2 weeks ago, opening week, we were -1. So here we go, starting this negative turnover ratio again. And we challenged the kids on turnovers. I told them some stories about some previous things that we had done in the past at different schools and different sports, and how we got kids to do some stuff and give them some scenarios, and told them every ball that they brought back to the sideline that they'd get, you know, free bars and free milk, chocolate True Moon milks all week, and they could get the dinner of their choosing. So I have to go pick up some. They all chose ribs. All the guys that either forced a turnover or got it.
I would choose ribs.
They're getting ribs today for all the turnovers. So they took pride in that Friday night, and we created a lot of turnovers and found a way to strip and rip and hit and got some interceptions as well.
Well, that could get expensive, but hey, if it works, just have to sell more hats.
Yeah.
But talk about, you know, like I said, you know, did have a couple of turnovers, but what did you see? You know, back and forth ball game, we score first, take the lead, and then, you know, obviously that gives your team a little bit of momentum. But then they answered back immediately. You know, what were you thinking at that point?
It's big plays. And that was one of the things against Collinsville. We just give up way too many big plays, and we've still given up way too many big plays, and that's something to be concerned about and to worry about. And a lot of it's still in the same type breakdowns that we've got to get better at giving up the big plays. And that's some of the things we do on defense is to try to keep from giving up big plays, and we still find a way to give them up. Or we'll lose. We'll run inside of our containment or get pinned in, get our eyes on. That's so much about defense is just eye discipline.
Right.
You know, if your eyes is not in the right spot, there's a good chance you can end up wrong.
Talk about the performance of Brody McCurdy.
Oh, that was gutsy, wasn't it?
Gutsy, very gutsy.
Yeah, he played his tail off. Of course, everything he did we knew he was capable of, and you know, he got some chewing out on film too. There's some times that he didn't do what he was supposed to, but he played his tail off.
I saw stats, but you told me those stats are not correct. I've seen. Do you know how many yards he ended up with?
All-purpose yards, he had over 200.
Yeah.
He probably had 210, 215, somewhere in that neighborhood all-purpose. He had 4 tackles for a loss in the game on the defensive side. I don't know how many total tackles he had, but I know all that stuff's not on that's not on the stats you guys get from Friday night. They're pretty close, but they're always a little bit off.
Well, you know, and we talk about Brody McCurdy, and again, outstanding job, you know, that he did Friday night. But the thing I like about Plainview, when we get all these stats in from all these teams, and, you know, I'm not going to start naming names, but some places you're like, well, you know, they're a one-trick pony, you know, and without that pony. But the thing about Plainview is when I watch them, and this was on display Friday night, as good as Brody did, there were so many guys that stepped up at a point in the game when they needed to and made big plays. You got second half Logan Bell with a big pick six, you know, and you've got Parker with some good runs and crucial catches at moments. Vega with a good run, and I know I'm probably leaving some kids out, and I'm sure you see more things like a crucial block that was made at a key time, but it seems like there's so many contributors on that team that stepped up when they needed to.
And you know, our offensive line played much better, much better. We still got a long way to go up front. We still had a lot of mistakes up front, but it was much better this week or last week compared to week 0.
Well, and I know the question that a lot of people, and you've probably got this week from some people. What was your thinking there at the end? You get to the back and forth ball game, back and forth, and I know Chaparro had missed on a kick earlier. Don't know if that was due to a bad snap or hold, what the deal was, but you get down and it's overtime. You make the decision to go for 2.
We made that decision before overtime began. As long as we were going to be on defense first,
right? The
way the night was going, it changes every night. But the way that night was going in the field that night, as long as we were on defense first, we was going to go for 2 and we scored. And we forced them to use a timeout during overtime, so they didn't have any timeouts. So when we scored the touchdown in overtime, our kids, we didn't even tell them what play we was running. We didn't tell them what formation. They already knew. And while North Jackson was trying to line up an extra point block, we snapped the ball and went into the end zone to win it.
Well, good decision because you got the win.
Well, we knew they didn't have. The big thing was we knew they couldn't just call timeout.
Well, I knew there was a couple times in the game, like on some fourth downs, where you went for it. I got some comments from some people. Referred to you as the old riverboat gambler, borrowed Tommy Tuberville's moniker there, but it's interesting when you come down to those times. And a lot of times, and the way you describe that, a lot of times to the layman, that they think that there may be a lot of trickery or whatever that goes into a decision like that, when in actuality it's just based on the numbers, and it's usually made before the situation comes up.
When we had the false start there in overtime, and they backed us up, and then we ended up in the 4th and 6 or 7 in goal in overtime, and we knew what play we was going to run then. And the kids come to the sideline, the kids knew what we were going to do, and the personnel on the field, we were hoping to run it. It was there. They caught us in what we were doing and called timeout, but was also a good thing because we got rid of a timeout, and then we went to our plan B the next play, and it was wide open too. So we scored the touchdown, and then knew they was out of timeouts, and our kids knew we was going for 2, and we knew we was going for 2, and we put it in the end zone. It kind of worked out the way we was hoping it'd work out.
Have you noticed much of a difference in practice this week as compared to last week?
Well, it's the same. The week before, you got to get your kids ready to play after being embarrassed, and at some points in time during the Collinsville game, we had guys give up and quit, and try to get that corrected and get everybody there and everybody show up. We had everybody there every day, and we worked hard, and the kids fixed a lot of that stuff.
Right.
And this week's no different. You got everybody up on a high. Now you got to bring them back down and get them ready for a first region opponent.
It can be tougher sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good segue into Geraldine. That's the big test coming up. First region game. So very crucial, very important game, very tough game. Geraldine's always a very physical football team. I believe Plainview's becoming a physical football
We're
team.
getting there. We're getting there.
I like to see that. I told somebody the other day, I said, the greatest thing that I like about Plainview is that we are becoming a blue-collar football team. That's what I like. Talk about Geraldine.
Geraldine's a fantastic football team. They won the region championship last year, and they won it for a reason. And those guys are coming back in, and we're going to have our hands full with them. What they do on offense is it's a good offense. What they do on defense is they load the box and they play and they pad and squeeze, and they pad and squeeze as good as anybody will play all year long. It's tough to defend. It's tough to get your scout team during the week to replicate what they do, because you can't. You can't replicate what they do at the speed they do it with. And it's just you have the line of scrimmage, and then you'll hit the pause button watching film, and when they fire off the ball, it's just a thing of beauty. I mean, those backs are flat. They're all stepping the same way, stepping with the right foot, and they're hitting people, right where you're supposed to hit them at.
Exactly.
Low and in the hip and driving them. And we can't get our scout team to do that, so we got to weather that storm for a little bit early on to get our kids
acclimated
to the style of the game's going to be played.
Well, and too, I was having to write up the Geraldine Fife game this morning, and like a lot of people, I saw 28-0, and I thought, well, that's just all Fife, but I know it was a shutout, but oddly, that game was actually closer than that score. There were so many times when Geraldine was deep in Fife territory, facing a fourth down, and got stopped, had drives stall out deep, things like that. That game could have been much closer. So a tough challenge. Talk about their quarterback situation and what they do, or they're pretty much they're a physical ground attack team.
They are, but it's also what makes their passing game so good.
Right.
You got a team that fires off with low pad level, and technique is great. They got that quick motion, quick snap, and next thing you know, they got four out of the backfield going every different direction. You got to try to figure out how to cover them and realize it ain't running at the same time. It's difficult. It's a much harder scheme to defend and to get prepped for than the last two.
How do you feel that your defense matches up against what they do offensively?
It's that I mentioned earlier, that eye discipline. If you have your eyes in the wrong spot, your kids are going to be in the wrong position when the ball snaps, because there's so much eye candy and things and motions going on in the backfield. If you get your eyes up and start watching that stuff, you're going to be wrong. But if you train your eyes and train your kids to have, do the right things and the right technique off what they do and their motions and their steps, and it gives yourself a chance to be in the right position to make the plays. And that's the biggest thing we're working on, just getting our kids' eyes trained, and then when they get there to, get them on the ground and tackle them.
We've talked about how Coach Waldrop, he's a Benefield disciple. How similar is what they do to what Fife does?
From what Fife, they still do it. You just don't see it on Friday nights all the time. Fife still practices the double wing, and they get in trouble in the playoffs. You'll see them come out in it, and they still work it every week and every day. But a lot of it's similar. There is some things that's different about how they do it, but the speed and the timing and the same as far as who blocks down and maybe who pulls, and so a lot of that's still the same. But there is some differences in what they do. You can tell that, Brad's kind of made it his own.
Fife, I don't know how strong they're running. Not Fife, talking about Geraldine. I'm not sure how strong their running game is. I'm sure you've watched film on them. They lost the Hall kid from last year, who was primary ball carrier for them. Who is their primary running back now? And
they got a lot of them. Instead of focusing on one, you got a lot of guys to focus on.
Running back by committee.
Yeah, I'd hate to call them out by name and number. I'm afraid I might forget one. But their run game is as good now as it was last year, if not better, because they don't just depend on, we got to have something big, we're giving it to Hall. You know it, I know it, we know it, and stop us if you can. Right. It's still the same mentality, stop us if you can, but you don't know who's going to touch it.
Defensively, and I know, like I said, Plainview's a blue-collar team. Usually you think when you hear that, you think, just complete running game, that's kind of 3 yards in a cloud of dust. But I've been impressed with how successful we've thrown the football so far.
Have you?
Well, I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say that. When I say I'm impressed with how we've thrown it, I'm just talking about strictly what I've seen us be successful doing.
Yeah.
And showing the potential. What we could do is if we get better,
Yeah.
I think we've got a good quarterback. He's young, and he made a few more mistakes the other night, freshman, stuff, and I'm sure you saw a lot more than I did. But I saw some good catches, and I saw some good throws. And I just wonder, if you think we'd be able to do that much against Geraldine.
Well, every team you play. And
I don't know how good their pass defense is what I'm saying.
Well, they'll mix 2 shell and 1 shell. I mean, I think a lot of what they'll do depend on what formation we're in. Whether they're 1 or 2 and down and distance will always dictate that also. I mean, if it's a 3rd and 15, if they're 1 high, they're probably bringing somebody. But every team you play and scheme for, there's some things that they give you in a pass game. Maybe something we had last week that we didn't have because they took it away, but we had other things open this week. We feel like there's a few things we can do in a throw game that Mike can help us out that we can do against them. But you still got to throw it and you got to catch it.
Right.
That's the part of the pass game. We still got to get better at it, but we still have to get better up front, running the ball downhill too. I mean, we're not. We still want to be able to throw the ball when we want to and not have it dictated by what the other team's doing. And
right.
A lot of our passing this year has been dictated on down and distance, and because of we haven't done what we needed to on the downs, we need to do it.
Well, backing up just a little bit again to the going back to from Collinsville to North Jackson. How much of an improvement did you see in your offensive line? Because clearly we got whipped up front against Collinsville. I saw white jerseys in White's face all night long. He was throwing under pressure.
Yeah.
Seems like he had a few more opportunities. I know we didn't win every battle, but it seems like we performed better.
We did.
At the line of scrimmage than we did the week
I
before.
think one of the biggest things that helped our kids out was like you said, we come out and took the lead. So our next possession gave our kids confidence because we
Right.
playing a lot of kids up front that's not played a lot of varsity football, if any, and they just got a little more confidence as a game went.
Right.
And once they figured out, hey, we can do this, we can block them, we can block, we can do this, we got better and better and better as the game went. And I think that had a lot to do with us up front too. And they have the ability. They gotta know they can. They can do it.
Right. Well, yeah, and I was concerned because I knew especially after seeing what Collinsville did, and I knew North Jackson. I mean, they were bigger than us across the front. They were bigger than us.
Yeah.
So I was going to say that's got to give your guys up front confidence, knowing that if we do what Coach tells us.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get kids to understand too. Kids go out with a game focus. And they look at the scoreboard and they think about the scoreboard, and it's hard to get kids to understand you don't need to worry about winning the game. You need to worry about winning the play.
Right.
If you win the play, you keep score with yourself and what you're doing to the guy in front of you. And if you win more plays than he does, and everybody does that, we'll win the ball game.
Right.
But I think they got confidence and. I just want to say to the Plainview faithful, stick with these guys. They're working hard, and all you can ask for is improvement from week to week, and we saw that. And I'm excited about what they're going to do. And Geraldine Friday night's going to be at home again, and that's good. Personally, I love being at home every week because I got to carry all that gear and get it set up and everything. But so that makes it easier for me, and Monk don't have as far to drive to get back to his scoreboard show. But Geraldine and Plainview Friday night. It's going to be at home over at Plainview. Come out and support the Bears. Coach Nick Ledbetter, thank you for joining us.
Appreciate you having me.
All righty.
Folks, this is Andy White down here at Bobby Ledbetter's Twin City, and I want to invite everybody to come down here and see us. We're located at 1015 Galt Avenue South here in downtown Fort Payne, and I want everybody to come down and check out our inventory. Bobby always keeps the inventory refreshed. We've got new stuff coming in every single day, a lot of stuff going out every day. Listen, we appreciate everybody in the area coming down here, letting us earn your business. I'm telling you what, this year's been great for us, and every year we get nominated and then we get voted in as the best in DeKalb. So I want to tell everybody we appreciate y'all doing that for us. Let us know we're doing everything right. So y'all come down here and see us, 1015 Galt Avenue South. You can shop us on the web at Twin City Used Cars, or you can just give us a call at 256-844-2210.
At First Southern State Bank in Rainsville, we excel within the walls of our bank and outside these walls too. We're actively working with area schools to improve classrooms and supporting area student athletes on fields and courts. We work and worship at most churches in the Rainsville community. We also work to enhance the lives of area seniors, thanking them for a lifetime of contributions. We're the bankers and corporate citizens at First Southern State Bank. True community banking.